When people hear Renaissance, they think of Leonardo, Michelangelo, Raphael. But hidden in their shadow is a man who didn't simply paint pictures. He opened space on walls, like you weren't looking at a painting, but at a doorway into another world. His name was Andrea Mantegna. He mastered perspective so intensely that viewers felt pulled inside his scenes. And one of his most famous works, The Dead Christ, shocked his era, because he painted the body from such a bold angle. It feels like you're standing right there beside it. In this video, I'll reveal 10 powerful facts about Andrea Mantegna. And by the end, you'll understand why some call him the Renaissance artist who painted like a camera. Fact 1. He was the Renaissance genius of perspective. Andrea Mantegna wasn't just a Renaissance painter. He was an architect of illusion. Because when most artists were still learning how to make a figure look human, Mantegna was already doing something far more advanced. He was making paintings feel like real space. That's why many historians call him the Renaissance genius of perspective. Perspective is not just a technique. It's a trick that convinces your brain that flat walls have depth, that a painted hallway is a real hallway, that a ceiling can open into the sky. And Mantegna mastered this like almost no one before him. He didn't simply place people in a scene. He built a world around them, with lines, angles, and geometry so precise that the viewer feels pulled inside. His paintings are designed like a stage set. Every column, every staircase, every shadow is placed carefully to guide your eyes. And this is what makes his work so powerful. You don't just look at a Mantegna painting, you enter it. He was obsessed with structure, with the solid weight of architecture, with the feeling that the wall itself disappears. And he used a technique that shocked his era: dramatic foreshortening, the ability to paint a body or an object from an extreme angle, so it looks like it's coming toward you in real life. It's the same kind of illusion modern cinema uses. But Mantegna was doing it in the 1400s. That's why his art feels strangely modern, because his perspective isn't decorative. It's aggressive, it's bold, it forces your eye to accept the impossible. And when people in the Renaissance saw this, they didn't just admire it, they were stunned by it. Because for the first time, a painting didn't feel like an image. It felt like a window into another world. Fact 2. He faced a harsh childhood. Andrea Mantegna's genius didn't grow out of comfort. It grew out of pressure. Because before he became the painter who could bend walls into illusion, he was just a child, born into a world where art was not a dream. It was a way to survive. Mantegna was born near Padua, in a humble environment, and his early life was shaped by struggle. In many biographies, he is described as coming from a poor background, and from an early age, he had to face responsibilities that most children never even imagine. And then, something happened that changed everything. While still very young, Mantegna was taken into the workshop of Francesco Squarcione, a man who trained artists like a strict commander. For Mantegna, this was opportunity, but also a kind of captivity. He wasn't entering a gentle school. He was entering a system, a world of long hours, heavy discipline, and constant demands. Think about it. A child surrounded by adults expected to work, learn, copy, improve, every day. In such workshops, apprentices were not treated like students. They were treated like tools, useful hands. And Squarcione was known to be controlling, even possessive, because he wanted credit for the talent he produced. So Mantegna grew up with two things at the same time: the gift of training and the pain of being owned. That's why his style feels so hard, so strong, so sculptural. Because he learned early that softness doesn't protect you. Precision does. Discipline does. And what makes this childhood even more powerful is that Mantegna did not stay trapped forever. He fought for his independence. He challenged the system. He broke away. And from that harsh beginning, he transformed himself into one of the most revolutionary artists of the Renaissance. So when you look at Mantegna's paintings, don't only see beauty, see endurance. Because behind his perfect perspective, there is the story of a child who had to grow up too early. Fact 3. Squarcione discovered him, then became his enemy. Andrea Mantegna's rise is not just a story of talent, it's also a story of conflict. Because the man who discovered him almost became the man who tried to control him forever. That man was Francesco Squarcione. Squarcione was not a great painter himself, but he was famous for something else. He was a powerful teacher, a collector of Roman antiquities, and a workshop master who trained young artists with extreme discipline. He saw something in the young Mantegna that others didn't. Not just skill, but fire. So he took him into his workshop, almost like claiming him. At first, it looked like a perfect relationship. Squarcione provided training, access, and connections. Mantegna provided brilliance. But then the problem began. Squarcione didn't want Mantegna to become independent. He wanted to own his success. In those days, apprentices were often trapped under their masters, and Squarcione was known to be controlling, even possessive. He treated Mantegna's talent like property, and as Mantegna's reputation grew, the tension grew. Imagine it, a young artist becoming too famous, and the master realizing he might lose control. Eventually, this turned into open conflict. Mantegna fought for his freedom. He legally separated himself from Squarcione, and that was a scandal. Because it wasn't just a personal fight, it was a public statement. I am not your creation. I am my own artist. From that point, Squarcione and Mantegna were no longer teacher and student. They were rivals, enemies, and strangely, that conflict may have shaped Mantegna's greatness even more. Because when he broke away, he didn't just escape a workshop, he escaped a cage. And the artist who emerged from that battle was sharper, colder, and stronger. A painter who would soon reshape Renaissance art forever. Fact 4. He painted figures like sculptures. One of the strangest things about Andrea Mantegna is this. When you look at his people, they don't feel like paint. They feel like stone, like sculpture, like statues that somehow started breathing. And that is not an accident. Mantegna had a style so sharp, so structured, so disciplined, that his figures often look carved rather than painted. While many Renaissance artists were chasing softness, smooth skin, gentle movement, dreamy faces, Mantegna went in a completely different direction. He chose strength, weight, hardness. His bodies have muscle that looks real but also rigid. His faces have expression, but they are serious, almost severe. Even when his characters are calm, there is tension inside them. They look like they were built from marble. And the reason is simple. Mantegna was obsessed with the ancient world. He loved Roman statues. He studied them like sacred objects. He didn't just admire them. He tried to bring that same power into painting. So he painted people as if they were classical monuments. Strong shoulders, heavy drapery, sharp folds in fabric like carved stone. And this gives his work a very specific feeling. His paintings don't feel fragile. They feel eternal, like they belong in temples, not rooms. But there's another reason his figures feel sculptural: light and shadow. Mantegna used shadow in a way that made bodies look solid. He used contrast to define bone structure, to sharpen cheekbones, to make knees, elbows, hands, and feet feel physical, like you could touch them. And this is why his art is so dramatic. Because when a figure looks like stone, every emotion becomes heavier. Every gaze becomes colder. Every scene becomes more intense. And that effect was powerful in the Renaissance. People were used to sacred figures that looked symbolic. But Mantegna gave them something else. Figures with the authority of statues, but the emotion of humans. You can feel this in his saints, in his soldiers, in his kings. They are not floating. They are grounded. They are heavy. They have gravity. It's almost as if Mantegna wanted to say, these people are not myths. They are real. And because his figures look sculpted, his paintings feel timeless. That is why art historians often describe Mantegna like this. He didn't paint bodies. He built them, like a sculptor, using only paint. Fact 5. His most famous work, The Dead Christ. If Andrea Mantegna is remembered for one single painting, it is this one, The Dead Christ. And even today, centuries later, it still shocks people. Because this painting doesn't feel like art that's trying to be beautiful. It feels like a moment you were never supposed to witness. Mantegna shows the body of Christ laid out after death, but not from the normal angle, not from above, not from the side. He paints it from the feet, as if the viewer is standing right there, looking down. And this is where the genius becomes terrifying. This technique is called foreshortening, a way of painting a body from an extreme angle, compressing the form so it feels real in depth. But Mantegna pushes it further than almost anyone in the Renaissance. He forces perspective to do something emotional. He makes the viewer feel uncomfortably close, almost like you can touch the cold skin, like you can feel the silence in the room. And notice something else. The body is not heroic, not idealized. It is heavy, human, real, even painful to look at. The hands are stiff, the chest is still, the wounds are visible, and the face has the weight of death. This was bold. In the Renaissance, sacred figures were usually shown in a glorious, distant way. But Mantegna brings holiness down to the ground. He removes the distance. He makes it personal. And that is why this painting became legendary. Because it doesn't ask you to admire Christ. It forces you to confront mortality, to confront grief, to confront the shocking realism of death itself. And for Mantegna, that was the point. He didn't paint a symbol. He painted a human body, so real that it feels like a scene from a film. That's why many people call The Dead Christ one of the most powerful and modern paintings of the entire Renaissance. Fact 6. He was obsessed with ancient Rome. Andrea Mantegna didn't paint the Renaissance like most artists. He painted it like a man who lived with one foot in the past, because he was obsessed with ancient Rome. While other painters chased elegance, softness, and beauty, Mantegna chased something harder: stone, discipline, and the eternal power of classical civilization. He studied Roman statues as if they were sacred. He admired their strength, their anatomy, their cold authority. And he didn't just look at them. He copied them, collected them, and built his art around them. You can feel this obsession in his paintings immediately. His scenes are filled with Roman columns, arches, marble reliefs, inscriptions, and classical armor. Even his characters often look like carved monuments. It's as if his world is not medieval Italy, but a revived Roman Empire. And this wasn't just decoration. For Mantegna, Rome was a language, a way to say, this story is not temporary. This is history. He wanted his paintings to feel like ancient ruins that survived centuries. That's why his art feels rigid, sculptural, and monumental. He treated every line like architecture, every figure like a statue, every scene like a Roman triumph carved into stone. And there's something deeper here. Mantegna lived in a time when Renaissance thinkers believed they were reborn from the ashes of Rome. So when he painted Roman elements, he was not only showing the past, he was claiming it. He was saying, the power of Rome is ours again. That is why Mantegna became one of the most classical artists of the entire Renaissance. Because he didn't just paint history, he tried to resurrect it. Fact 7. He became the official painter of the Mantua court. Andrea Mantegna didn't remain just a talented artist in a city workshop. His skill was so powerful that it reached the ears of one of Italy's most important ruling families, the Gonzaga of Mantua. And they didn't just hire him for one painting, they made him their official court artist. That was a huge honor in the Renaissance, because a court painter wasn't only creating art, he was building political image, power, and legacy. In Mantua, Mantegna gained stability, prestige, and resources that most artists could only dream of. And it was there, inside the palace walls, that he created some of his greatest masterpieces, turning the Gonzaga court into one of the most legendary artistic centers of the Renaissance. Fact 8. Camera degli Sposi was his masterpiece. If Andrea Mantegna had only one place where he proved his genius forever, it would be here. Camera degli Sposi, the bridal chamber. This wasn't just a painting, it was a transformation. Because inside the Gonzaga Palace in Mantua, Mantegna didn't decorate a room. He rebuilt reality. He covered the walls and ceiling with frescoes that create one of the greatest illusions in Renaissance history. When you step into that chamber, something strange happens. The room stops feeling like a room. It feels like architecture opens outward, like the walls dissolve, and then your eyes go upward, to the ceiling. Because Mantegna painted a famous illusion called the oculus, a circular opening that looks like a real hole in the roof, revealing sky beyond it. And around that opening, figures lean over as if they are looking down at you. Some appear curious, some playful, some almost teasing. It's an illusion so convincing that it feels impossible for the 1400s. This is why Camera degli Sposi became legendary. Because Mantegna didn't just paint a scene, he made the viewer part of it. He turned space into theater and perspective into magic. This room proves something important. Mantegna wasn't only a great painter, he was a genius of visual psychology, an artist who understood how to control the viewer's eye and make a ceiling feel like the sky itself. Fact 9. He became part of the Bellini family. Andrea Mantegna didn't just rise through talent, he also became connected to one of the most powerful artistic families in Renaissance Italy, the Bellini. This matters more than it sounds, because the Bellini were not ordinary painters. They were a dynasty. They shaped Venetian art for generations. And when Mantegna married Nicosia Bellini, the sister of Giovanni Bellini, something incredible happened. Two different worlds of Renaissance painting collided. Mantegna belonged to a stricter, sharper tradition. His style was sculptural, harsh, classical. He loved Rome. He loved stone. He loved anatomy and perspective. But the Bellini world was different. Venice was the kingdom of light and color. Venetian painters cared about atmosphere, softness, glowing tones, and emotional beauty. So this marriage wasn't just romantic, it was cultural, it was strategic. It created a bridge between Padua's hard discipline and Venice's luminous elegance. And historians believe this connection influenced both sides. Mantegna's powerful realism and perspective pushed Venetian artists to become more structured. And at the same time, Venetian color and softness may have influenced Mantegna's approach, even if slightly. It's like two giants sharing secrets, two masters learning from each other without admitting it. And that's what makes this fact so interesting. Because behind the famous paintings, behind the masterpieces, there was also a hidden network of relationships, marriage, power, artistic influence. And in the Renaissance, those things could shape the future of art as much as genius itself. So when you hear Mantegna and Bellini, don't think of two separate names. Think of a connection that helped shape the Renaissance. Fact 10. He thought like a film director. Andrea Mantegna didn't paint like a normal Renaissance artist. He painted like a film director. Because he didn't just create an image. He staged a scene. He chose dramatic angles, controlled perspective, and positioned figures the way a camera would frame them. His compositions feel cinematic. Low viewpoints, deep space, powerful shadows, and strong body language. Even centuries before photography, Mantegna understood something modern artists still chase today. The viewer's eye can be controlled. That's why his paintings feel like frozen movie moments. Not just art, not just history, but scenes you can almost step into. And that is exactly why Andrea Mantegna remains unforgettable.